I'm definitely not doing these to stall for doing my homework. Hi, lads, ladies, and non-binary daisies. It's also really hard for me to remember to tell people to subscribe. You should subscribe. I mean, I make cool content. Read with me. The next book is actually by Kobe Bryant. At least the concept is. Um, so I didn't actually plan on reading this book, because I like magic, but I didn't know what to expect when I was reading this, because the part of the reason I don't like to read black stories that like aren't fantasy, or like they aren't like something, they need some other genre besides the characters just being black, is that like it feels like I'm reading Sadness the Story a lot of the time, where it's like this black child, usually a boy because the girls don't matter, it plays some sport, and that sport is going to help him get out of the hood and help his family, and just he faces issues because he's black, like with the cops and shit like that. And it's like, dude, I get it. Like, whenever people write stories like that, like, I get it, that is also a part of the black experience. I happen to just not like realistic fiction. That fiction is just a tad too realistic for me. But when it's books like that, their blackness becomes something that it feels like the author is insisting about the character, rather than something that just happens, because some of that stuff is a uniquely black experience. Like, you're never going to find like a white person who has been like harassed by the cops due to the fact that they are white. Like, a white person is not going to get stopped in a Mercedes because they're driving an expensive car while white. A black person will. Like, so, but I read it, and it's a little bit of that, but like, I still like this book, and I think it's because Rain is my sweet baby boy. Let me tell you what this shit is called. Um, so, the Wizenard series, Training Camp, was written by Westley King, and it was created by Kobe Bryant. And, yeah, so that's cool. I didn't watch Kobe Bryant play basketball, by the way. I don't especially care for that sport. My mom said that he was a good player. I don't have an opinion of him as a basketball player. As a person, he seemed perfectly nice. He was on Ridiculousness. There also was that whole thing where he was accused of like rape in the early 2000s, but whatever. Um, I just, yeah. This is a video about a book, but I know that stans are crazy, so I just wanted to put that out there. Um, the whole book is called Training Camp, and the first book is about Rain. So, Rain is on a basketball team that isn't really doing well, neither is their gym. Big John is another player. He bullies Twig. Rain wants to help, but he feels like Twig is kind of soft. Freddie is the team's owner. He got a new player for them named Devin, and he also got them a new coach. The team does not belong to a school, it belongs to their community center. There's a weird voice talking to Rain the entire time. I assume that this is going to happen throughout all of the books. The coach's name is Rolabi Wizenard, and he does not like to be called Coach Rolabi. So yeah, he gives them some basketballs, and weird shit starts happening. The experience Rolabi calls interesting, and he has them sign a contract about learning the nature of things. These four, five, I think there are 4 or 5 books. These books are all about these children. Like, there's a lesson that all of them need to learn. So Rolabi is going, I'm just going to call him Wizenard. So Wizenard is going to teach them the lesson through the aid of magic and basketball. So their city is called the Bottom, and other teams mock them. And Wizenard wants everybody to learn their spot. And when Rain touches his basketball, everyone else disappears. The reason that everybody else disappears is because Rain thinks he's the entire team, and that's his lesson. That's one of the lessons that he needs to learn, actually. There are quite a few that Rain learns. This is a very age-appropriate book, I feel like. Like, if you were to have, like, your 7th graders read this is very age-appropriate. I really like this book. So, like, Rain is the captain of the team. He's just not a good one. He's not a good leader and his team doesn't really like him because, he's not the entire team. Yeah, so Wizenard is going and like using magic to like go inside them and pull out what each of them wants in life and provide some perspective. Rain wants family, and Wizenard is trying to make them a team. Big John, he's out though. He doesn't like this at all. I like it first, but then he decides, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna get through this because I'm not wrong. Um, One of the things that Rain hasn't thought about is what's going to happen after they win a championship. Like, people get basketball scholarships and other sports scholarships all the time, but being the non athletic person that I am, I imagine that there's only a limited number of scholarships that they can hand out each year. So, like, what if you don't get it? Then what? Like, he's just trying to provide some perspective. Rain does want to lead his team, he's just bad at it. And, he doesn't see the point in letting other people help him. He's also a good basketball player, but like he doesn't see the point in letting the others help when he feels like they're not as good as he is. So, um, Rain, like he focuses on the basketball too much and not on like when you're playing as a team sport, your other players are there for a reason. Like if you're a midfielder in soccer and somebody else is like the goalie, you can't also play goalie. You're a midfielder. What are you doing? Like yeah, the other players are there to help you. Like when I was in college, if one of the players made a shot, if someone else assisted, they would say that the other person assisted. They would do that in field hockey and lacrosse too. Like, it's not just you when you're on the team. Um, all of the other kids, like, I don't know what their lessons are yet, but eventually they start learning to work together. And there's like this orb that Wizardnard like had floating around, and if the orb flies into you, I think that means that you've kind of grasped the lesson that you were supposed to learn. And Rain is the second person to do it. The first one was that new kid Devin, and Rain has the problem that a lot of people have, in that he fears failure and sees it as like the end, which it's not. Rain also thinks that if he's good at basketball, then it'll make his dad come back, which also may or may not happen. His dad left them, so he may not come back. Like, if he thinks that if he lets his team down, then they're going to abandon him like his dad did, which is really sad. But, like, that's not how teamwork works. And if your team members truly act that way, those aren't your fucking team members. And maybe you need to find a different set of team members or a different sport to play, because those people are terrible. Like, when you're on a team, like, you have to, Jesus. My description, I feel like, kind of reads like an analysis of Rain's character and like introduces the Wizenard, because in the other books, I already know who he is, so I'm not gonna have to like introduce him as much. But like, yeah, each little like week that they're doing up to what I don't actually know what the end goal for like the basketball team is, but each little like practice week that they're doing, it's like a different test to help them realize that teamwork is the thing. He's not actually hurting them. He's not doing anything to them. It's just an illusion and it's magic. But I feel like part of the reason it works is because A, they stayed, and B, they believe it does. So um I like this book. A lot of young black men have this issue, and they think that sports will solve everything. And I encourage real majors. Like, I have a friend who just wanted to play football, and I asked him what happens if you tear your ACL in your first season, because it could happen. There was a very famous football player who I believe studied like math. He was like a mathematician. He got one really bad concussion and stopped playing, because those type of things can happen when you play a contact sport like football. Like yeah, like even if you're lucky enough to go pro, what's your backup plan? Because what if you get injured and then you can't play anymore? Like, that happened on Good Times. There was a character who played basketball who married Thelma, and he got injured and then he couldn't play, and he was like lost for a couple of episodes, and like he ended up hitting Thelma because he was really, really angry and wasn't talking to anybody about it. And like, you gotta have a backup plan, dude. And it needs to be like a real major. Like, if sports is your life and like you don't think you're really good at anything else, major in health science. Like, you could be like a physical therapist or for players or something like that. Like, there are other options. You cannot just have sports, because what if you fail? Like, sports is one of those things where, because it's so injury prone, that's like a reasonable question to ask. What if you fail? Then what? Like, that's an injury is so far out of your control when it comes to like a contact sport. So like, Wizenard, Wallaby, the coach, he is kind of like a mixture of Coach Carter and Major Payne. If you've ever seen those movies, I don't really recommend Major Payne. I think it's good, but that's because I saw it when I was a child, and I think it's hysterical. If you do decide to watch it, don't turn your brain on, because that movie is dumb. Coach Carter is a Samuel L. Jackson movie, and I thought it was a really good movie. Yeah, it's part of the reason I like it is because it's a different take on the genre. Usually it would just be like the coach like talking to them and giving them tough love and crap like that, like Coach Carter. But this book has magic, which I like magic, and it's so rare that there are black characters interacting with magic. I like magic. Speaking of black characters interacting with magic, the last Wrath and Anathema book comes out next March. But anyway, yeah. And if you decide to try and find these books on Goodreads, for some reason, like only the anthology is on Goodreads. For some reason on Goodreads, it has them all in like one anthology. It doesn't separate out the books, but it does in Spanish. So I have these books on my Goodreads as Spanish, so that's weird. But yeah, this book is actually underneath Children of the Dragon. I kind of expected to like this one. I also have another one of his books that I'm going to read at some point after, I think, Skeleton Creek. It's the same thing, but it's one story and it's tennis. I haven't decided if I want to read the one that's like I believe that one is like a sporting school. I haven't decided if I want to read that one yet. But the cover is so pretty. Yeah. Hopefully it goes well. Subscribe.